I am filming this video on the 1st of February and I still cannot believe that we have 31 days of 2026 gone already, which is insane because it seems like it was just the holiday yesterday. Anyways, in today's video, I'm gonna share with you all of the books that I read in January. I actually stuck with my January 2026 TBR pretty nicely. Let's just start with going over the books that I picked for January if you missed that video. First, I have Mile High by Liz Tomfordy. And then I have Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. I have The Heart Principle by Helen Hong. I have Light Lark by Alex Astor. I have The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I have One Dark Window by Rachel Gillick. I have Fort Wing by Rebecca Yarros. And the last one I have Well Met by Jen DeLuca. I read 3 of the books that I picked this month, and let's just go over those 3 books first. So the very first book that I read in 2026 was The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I feel like I've talked a little bit about why I decided to finally pick this book up, and that is mainly because there are so many people who have rated this book highly and have highly recommended this book in their videos that I've watched. I feel like on every list of almost everyone's favorite books of all time is this Evelyn Hugo book, and I kind of understand why this was a great read for so many people, and I gotta agree with them. I actually rated this book 5-star. I did not expect to like this book as much as I do, but this book took me on an emotional roller coaster. There are so many characters in this book that is technically in Evelyn Hugo's life when she started in Hollywood in the 50s and finally retired in the 80s. And if you don't know the premise of this book, basically she is, I think, currently in her 70s. She is ready to tell her life story, and she decided to pick this unknown journalist, Monique Grant, to write her life story basically. So throughout the book, at least for me, I have been questioning what is the relationship of Monique Grant to Evelyn Hugo? Is Monique like her long lost granddaughter? But after reading a few of the chapters of the book and kind of learn where Evelyn Hugo came from as well as where Monique came from, I don't think they are related. I think her dad used to work in the film industry, but he never really worked with her because they're kind of almost a different generation. But also we learn about all of the sacrifice and all of the things that she did to become successful. There's also people who are annoying to me, people who are just childish, and I'm thinking how come she's still friends with these people? It's just taking me, like I said, on an emotional roller coaster. I feel bad for her, I feel sad for her sometimes, I'm proud of her, but I feel mostly I just feel bad because she couldn't really truly be herself at the time when she was rising to be a famous movie star. And I also feel this might be based on maybe a Hollywood movie star that we kind of know. I don't know who it might be, but this story just feels so real to me, even though all of the characters, all of the movies mentioned in these books are definitely fictional. This book is famous for a reason. I really enjoyed this book. Like I said, I feel Taylor Jenkins Reid has become my auto rate author, just like Catherine Center, because all of the books that I've read of her so far, I think I've only read 2, I want to say, have been really great. It's really easy to get into. Sure, these characters are fictional. The world that is created around this character is definitely fictional, but it seems like it's a real person, real world to me, that this thing actually happened back in the day. So I cannot wait to read her other books. I am excited to read Atmosphere. I am excited to read Carrie Soto is back, and hopefully I'll be able to read all of her books pretty soon. The next book that I actually finished reading in January was One Dark Window by Rachel Gillick. I know that this duology has been talked about pretty recently. A lot of people really like this duology, and honestly, I just wanted to read it for myself. I'm not really an avid fantasy reader, so I wasn't sure if I'm gonna get into this book quickly or even read this book this month. But after I read a few pages, I just couldn't stop reading this book. I think I read the first 20 pages or so a couple weeks before I finally started really reading this book, just because I want to see if I can really get into it. But after I passed that beginning of the book, I read this book in 2 days. It's hard for me to get into when the author is building the world, building the magic system. I think that's what a lot of people are saying when they are reading a fantasy book, but this book I feel like is not super hard to understand, especially if you don't really read fantasy a lot like I am or like I do. And the magic system is pretty easy. It's basically based on a deck of cards, and there's only 12 type of cards in the deck, and it was kind of explained pretty like seamlessly in like 2 paragraphs, and it's kind of easy to understand. I even like bookmark the page just so I can get back into it to make sure that I understand what the card's magic is about and what are the consequences if you are using this magic from this type of card too often. It was just a very interesting read. I feel like when I'm reading this book, I was very immersed in the world. I don't know how to explain it, but just the writing style, it's just very easy to understand. Like I said, maybe if you're not an avid fantasy reader, the beginning might be a little bit hard to get into, but after you pass like the first 20-30 pages, it flew by, for me at least. The main character has like this kind of like voice or like a monster, that's what she calls him, in her head, where she can communicate with, and it seems like he's there to protect her, but there's also some things that he's hiding. So it was just very interesting. The kingdom that she lives in right now, called Blunder, the kingdom of Blunder, is kind of cursed with this very thick mist around the wood. Everybody never really stray from the path, like the main road path, and if you walk off the path, you might be lost. It was just a very interesting world, and I cannot wait to read the second book. I can totally see myself reading the second book probably in February or March. I even posted this on Instagram saying how great this book is and how much I enjoy this book, and 2 of my friends on Instagram DM me saying that the second book is even better, and I cannot wait to read the second book, hopefully soon. The next book that I read was Well Met by Jen DeLuca. I decided to pick this book up because it is Book of the Month book, and I was trying to justify my subscription of Book of the Month because I was subscribed to Book of the Month last year, probably almost 12 months. I think I paused my membership probably in October or November. Honestly, because I picked a book every month, but I haven't read any of them. I actually picked this book up probably from a thrift store, even maybe from a local library somewhere, and the cover really piqued my interest, so I decided to add this to my January TBR. And to be honest with you, I did not expect to like this book as much, because if you've never heard of this book's setting is a Renaissance fair at this small town in, I think, Maryland, if I'm not mistaken. It's called Willow Creek. And I never was someone who's into the Renaissance period. I never really into the Renaissance fair or anything by Shakespeare. Sure, I know Romeo and Juliet, I know Hamlet, I know his work, but I'm not really into it that much. But for some reason, this book really works for me. Like when I read the first few pages to see like what I want to read next, I just dive into this book basically head first. I think in the beginning of the book, it started with the action right away. So the beginning of the book, we read about Emily, who is the main character that is about to drop off her niece at her school to volunteer for this Renaissance fair that one of the teachers organizes every single summer. I guess Emily and also her niece didn't know that in order for her niece to volunteer, an adult guardian, either like her parents or her guardian, I guess in this case her aunt, has to sign up to volunteer as well. Things gets off from there. The organizer, which is one of the teachers from her niece's school, was really grumpy, really like stressed, I think, in my opinion, that he has to kind of organize this whole big fair. And like I said, I didn't really think I was gonna like this book, but I actually enjoyed so much that I might actually read the next books in the series. I think there are 4 that are out currently, and I think the 5th one is coming out sometime this year. And we met some of the characters that's gonna be in the next few books in this book, and I kind of am curious on what their story is gonna be in this small town. If you're really into a small town like romance that doesn't really have like the cowboy background, ranch, farm, and all of that, I think you should pick this up. Try and see if you would like the first book. I think you would. And let me know in the comment below if you have read this book before. I was trying to see if Book of the Month would have the rest of the books in the series, but I don't think they do. So I might, maybe if I do enjoy the next few books, get the paperback version of all of the books and probably donate this to a little free library or to my husband's coworkers like library thing that they have at their office. I thought the next thing that I would share with you are the 2 books that I started in January but I did not finish. The first book is Mile High by Liz Tomforty. This is the first book in the Windy City series. I know that a lot of people said that this is their least favorite book in the series, but of course I have to start on the first book. I think this book was pretty good in the beginning, but I am currently at about 62% of the book and I'm a little bored of this book. I think it is just way too long in my opinion. Maybe because it is the first book and again there are a bunch of characters that is gonna be in the next few books that are introduced in this first book. So it's normal I think for the first book to be a little longer and for the first book to also have a lot of characters. But I don't know why I'm a little bored right now at about the 60% mark. I'm hoping to definitely pick this up because I do want to finish it so I can read the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th book. And I'm hoping that all of those books are gonna get better than this one. Anyways, this is about Sanders and Stevie. Sanders is one of the main player in this hockey team from Chicago, I believe, and Stevie is the flight attendant for the whole team for this like particular season. Sanders is known to be the playboy. He's always pictured with a different woman every single night after like the end of the game. He's pretty cocky, but I think something about Stevie really caught his attention and he's kind of like crushing really hard on her. She doesn't want to be involved because she knows Sanders in a professional way, and I think one of her seniors even told her not to hang out with any of the guys from the hockey team and all of that. So obviously Stevie wants to try to keep her distance from Sanders, but he just keeps on coming back to her, flirting with her and stuff like that. So it was really cute in the beginning, but like I said, it's kind of boring right now, but hopefully I will pick it up soon and hopefully it will get better. I need some type of conflict or something to make it interesting again for me. The other book that I started and I did not finish, and I might actually DNF, at least for now, is Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. This is the 2nd book in the Bellinger Sisters series. I thought I picked this up in January so I can finally finish the Bellinger Sisters series because there's only 2 books and this is the last book. However, I just cannot get over the nicknames that they have for each other. I don't know if you want me to say it, but the nicknames are Freckles for her and Peacock for him. I just think it's weird, and the thing is like they always call each other by their nickname almost like every single time they talk to each other. I feel like sometimes in other books nicknames are safe for like the spicy scenes in the book. They just call each other's nicknames on a daily basis, but they're not really together, they're just like friends. And I know that the nicknames come from the first book, but I did not think that it would be used so much in the 2nd book. I think I'm about 20% in and I just cannot get over the nicknames. I try to actually replace the nicknames with their actual name when I read the book, but I still can't get over it. So I think I'm gonna just soft DNF this book for now. Maybe I will pick it back up again in the summer or in the next few months. Let me know if you have read this book and if you like or dislike the nicknames. So that left us with 3 books that I did not start in January. So the first book that I didn't start is The Heart Principle by Helen Hong. I feel like I've been purposely trying to avoid this book because this is the last book that I have of Helen Hong's, and I don't think she has any other books, and I'm not sure if she's gonna come back to writing anytime soon. I've mentioned this in my previous videos before, but I do love Helen Hong's writing. I think it's brilliant. The way that she can convey the emotional connections between the 2 characters without conversation, I think is genius. I read the first few pages of this book, and this book is actually in first-person POV, while her other 2 books is in third person. So I think this book is kind of like a personal masterpiece for her as well, because I think she talks about writing this book when her mom was sick, and unfortunately her mom, I believe, passed away probably before this book was published. So this is a personal like memoir, I guess, of herself. So the next book that I didn't get to start is Light Lark by Alex Astor. I think I read like the first 2 pages of this book. I've heard so many great things about this book. I think it's become a little bit more popular more recently because she just published a 2-in-1 book recently about the 2 love interests, I think, in this book series. And last but not least, Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I just couldn't fit this into January. I think I read the first 22 pages of this book when I was trying to search for the next book that I wanted to read, but I definitely want to start at least the first book this year because I know that this series was so popular and so talked about last year, especially when Onyx Storm, the third book of the series, came out, and everybody and their moms were trying to get the special editions and were like selling stuff on eBay for so much. I feel FOMO that I haven't read this series yet. It seems like it's gonna be pretty easy for me to get into because the writing style is pretty like contemporary in my opinion. I'm not sure what I will think about it, like I said, because I'm not really an avid fantasy reader. Alright, those are all of the books that I read in January, and I guess I will see you next month with another reading wrap up.